today's episode is a bit of a hot topic. You've told me that, in most of your relationships that you have pretty much always been like the breadwinner.
Being a single mom, that in and of itself kind of forces you into a certain level of independence.
Please.
I am the queen of the Independent Women's Club.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mother Daughter Mixtape, where we talk everything love, life, and lessons learned along the way. My name is Jada.
And my name is Charmaine.
And welcome to our podcast. In today's episode, we will explore how success, ambition, and power dynamics affect relationships. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's hit play on today's episode. So let's get started. Let's have a quick little check-in. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
I am doing well. I can't complain. I mean, I could, but who would listen? Hopefully our listeners would listen. No, I'm just kidding. No, I have nothing to complain about, except for the fact that summer is pretty much over. Like, the days are getting shorter.
It's getting dark earlier.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. Like,
so when are we going to, as a people, stand up to who passes that bill? Congress. Somebody need to pass the bill to end daylight savings, because I'm over seasonal depression.
That's a whole episode by itself. However, I can't say that I agree with you. I actually like the whole daylight savings time, like the switch in March, which is my birth month, and not so much in the fall, like in November, but I love it in the springtime when the days are getting longer and you get that extra hour.
But I feel like if they didn't change the time in the first place, we wouldn't even have to worry about that. The days would still get longer.
In theory, yes, they will, but it's something about that first or second week of March when the time goes from it being light until maybe 6 or 6:30, and it's like 7:30, almost 8 o'clock, and it's like, oh, I got more time to play.
No, because when the time goes up, it's like it jumps from 6:30 that it's getting dark to 9 o'clock, and it's like somebody is lying. We only got the extra hour. Where did this extra 2.5 hours of daylight come from?
Well, the scientist in me is not going to let you say that it's 9 o'clock right away, because it's not.
Quicker than we realize.
The longest day of the year doesn't happen until summer solstice. By the way, I'm a complete nerd. Summer solstice.
That's why she got them glasses on.
And
she got glasses on in today's episode, y'all.
I'm just saying.
For the listeners that can't see, she don't wear her glasses no other time. We be out and about, and she'd be like, "Can you read this for me? Where your glasses at?"
I need them only. I am farsighted. So I only need them to see up close. So if we're at a restaurant or something like that, and especially in a low light setting, can't really read the menu, but it's okay.
Can't really. It ain't no can't really. She can't, period.
Listen, I digress. Summer solstice happens in June. So that's the longest day of the year. So it's not quite when the time changes in March. Just wanted to correct you there.
That's fine. But it still do be getting dark 8 o'clock when it was really supposed to be.
And I love it.
I love it too. But like I said, if we don't have to change the time in the first place. I understand people want more light in the wintertime or whatever. Isn't that what daylight savings is about? So that it gets brighter earlier, so that the days are longer and things like that. Well, not even longer, just that you have more time or whatever, or more daylight in the mornings and stuff.
Well, think about it from this perspective as well. So in the fall, when the time goes back, the sunrise is at 7 something. So think about the kids going to school early in the morning. Them kids be getting on the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning these days. So it's pitch black outside. So when the time goes back in the fall, it's not as dark when they're at the bus stop, and
it's almost about to get dark by the time they go home, though. That is crazy.
That's true.
That is crazy. Getting dark at 5:30, 6 o'clock. I used to be so anxious. You know how I used to like hate driving, and I still hate driving in the dark.
Yeah.
But when my anxiety was at its peak, when I was working at my last job in person, and it was getting dark at 5:30 p.m., oh my gosh, the way that I didn't even want to go home to drive, but it's like I hate being here, so I have to go home.
Yeah.
And it's just pitch black dark at 5:30 p.m. on a Wednesday when you leaving work. That's so depressing. But anyways, I digress. We ain't even.
Yeah, sorry. I had went on a whole little tirade there, but
That's
yeah.
one thing we're gonna do is talk about some other stuff.
That's what was on my mind today is how the days are getting shorter and I'm not feeling it.
I am also not feeling it, but I'm also just not feeling the daylight savings. So, but yeah, Congress need to pass a bill or something. Whoever
Write
is
a
in
letter.
charge, I will write a letter to Mr. President himself. Okay, Mr. Joe Biden. I am a black woman.
Listen.
In America.
Kamala
Do you know
Harris.
what I'm talking about?
Listen, that's a whole nother conversation too. You talking
White
about
chicks. That's my reference. White chicks. Where he was at the desk like, dear Mr. Hampton, I am a white woman in America. Like, I always quote that when I say I want to write a letter. But anyways.
I'm not even going to get into the politics right now, but all I'll say is
make sure you vote.
Yeah,
yes.
Get out and vote.
Exercise your
whoever
right.
you choose to vote for, that's on you, but just vote.
Exercise your right. Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay.
Yeah.
Getting back on topic.
Reeling it back in.
So, as we previously mentioned, today's episode is a bit of a hot topic. And we're talking about, as black women who are dating, and I'm more so speaking for you because since I'm younger and things like that, you're more established. You are more successful on the, success spectrum, as I would call it from my perspective, because obviously, like I said, I'm very still early in my career, still having to make those plays and get to when I get to where you at, baby, okay. But being, like I said, black women who are dating, who are successful, ambitious, and want to, make money, essentially.
Yeah.
We like nice things.
And do. And always will.
Call us bougie.
That is not an insult.
You see who I get it from, because I was about to say
insult.
The exact same thing. It's not an insult. But we just need to talk a bit about what that looks like in relationships. And like I said, in dating, and what your experiences particularly have been. Because like I said, I'm younger. And I foresee, as I get older and things like that, and I become more successful, because I will, that those may be challenges that I might face as I get older, get more established, and seek out a husband. So we'll talk a bit about how success plays a role in relationships, the power dynamics of ambition and what that may look like in a relationship, as well as how to navigate love when success is in the mix as well.
Yeah. Wow. This is heavy, I feel like.
Yeah. I'm sure you have some stories, experiences. And I kind of just want to go ahead and just dive right in head first. I mean, why not? Because I honestly have always, or you've told me that, in most of your relationships, that you have pretty much always been like the breadwinner.
I would say easily 90%. In the relationships that I've had, 20s, 30s, even in my 40s, that I have, and I don't like to use the word breadwinner, because when I think of breadwinner, I think of people who live together and they cohabitate and they are combining finances and things like that.
And you're taking on the brunt kind of thing.
Yeah. So not so much that. So I'll say more so that I have, from a salary perspective, that generally in my previous relationships, not all of them, but the majority of them, I made more money than they did. But I never threw it in anyone's face. Honestly, I don't even like to talk about salaries, especially in the beginning. I mean, if you're getting to a point of, potentially talking about marriage and, getting engaged and things like that, Yeah, at some point you need to talk about finances and stuff like that. But
Or even moving in together, honestly.
yeah, for sure. But in general dating, I'm not necessarily telling or asking, like, I can't ever remember asking a man how much money he made. However, there were signs and
Indications, you could tell.
yeah,
Yeah.
that they didn't make as much as I did. But it was never a problem for me in terms of choosing like who to date. That was never like in my list of criteria in terms of, oh, he's got to make six figures and he's got to, be success. He's got to be a VP at his company. Like, I've never been that type of person to use those type of factors to determine who I'm going to date.
Yeah. And I think that also just kind of derives, you're very independent and you don't need
Too independent.
but you've never needed for somebody to take care of you. Obviously, it would be nice.
Listen,
We all want somebody to take care of us, okay?
yes.
Myself included, and I know I'm only 25, but it just, like I said, you've never needed anybody to really do anything for you. It's
By
like,
God's grace, I'm
yeah.
not gonna, sit here and pretend that, hard work for sure. Yes, I work to get to where I am. I'm educated. I have a bachelor's degree. I have a master's degree. I've worked in my field for 15 plus years. So yeah, I've worked hard to get here, but I also know that there's a higher power that can take it away in an instant. Yeah, I have done well for myself. And I, like you said, I've been very independent. But I don't want to be no more just because you want to know. But yeah, being a single mom, that in and of itself kind of forces you into a certain level of independence. That's if you, I guess it's a choice as well, because there are certainly people out there, women, men too, who, they would much rather be in a relationship where somebody's taking care of them. Yes, I would love to have that, but not at the expense of my peace or my sanity or, any of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's important because, like you said, some people just can take what they can get. And as long as the bills are paid or they don't really have to worry about stuff like that, they're fine.
And they don't know how to be alone.
Right.
Like, that to me, not knowing how to sit in your own self, if you will. I've never understood that. I've never, aspired to be the type of person who just has to have somebody, no matter how they're treating you, no matter what the circumstances are. Like, I've always tried to be the person that, there is a such thing as happily single. As much as people, don't want to believe that, you can be happy and, being single does not mean, let me back up. Being alone does not mean being lonely. Two different things. So you can be alone and not feel lonely. Like, you just have to get to a point of understanding things that make you happy outside of another person.
Right.
So yeah.
And you can also be happily single and still want a relationship. Like, two things can be right at the same time.
For certain.
And that's something that I've learned as I've been in my couple of years of being single as well, is that, yeah, of course, people love to coin the phrase of like, oh, love yourself and, the love will come and blah, blah, blah. Girl, who said I didn't?
Right.
Like, I do love myself. I love myself very much. And that's one of the reasons why I'm single, because I love myself enough to not settle for certain things, to not, just take anything I can get.
Yeah.
But I still want a man.
And do.
And I still want to be taken care of. And I
Yeah.
still want, somebody who's going to protect, provide, et cetera, et cetera. So like I said, two things can be right at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I have friends and acquaintances and, just people that I know who, it's always interesting to see sometimes the type of people that they end up with, because they don't know, either they don't know how, or they don't know themselves enough to understand what it's going to take to make them happy. So they're looking for that peace. They're looking for that happiness in someone else. And my philosophy, at least I've tried to always maintain this philosophy, is that a man shouldn't make me happy. He can make me happier,
Mm-hmm.
or he can help me to, be happier in certain situations and circumstances. But is a man being in my life going to make me happy? Not so much. Like, that should be an inside job.
Right. And it should be the bare minimum for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you should definitely be at a point where you are like you've worked on yourself enough to know yourself. Like you said, like you should be able to know the things that make you happy, what you want out of a relationship. And that was
Mm-hmm.
something I had to go through, when I went through my previous breakup was that I learn from that experience what I want in a man, what I
Mm-hmm.
don't want out of a relationship, what I want myself to look like in a relationship, and how I want
Mm-hmm.
to feel, how I want to be treated, and things like that. So you learn that as you go. But also, when you're constantly in relationships back to back to back to back to back, you don't find that you're giving yourself enough time to really learn yourself and heal and amongst a bunch of other things as
Yeah.
well. But it should all be a learning process as well, because you honestly do learn so much about yourself even going through things with people in relationships.
Yeah, and it's an iterative process, meaning you learn something new and different about yourself through each
Mm-hmm.
situation or through each relationship. Like, things that I learned in a relationship, or maybe, after a breakup 20 years ago, I'm learning very different things about myself today than I did during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Things change, people change, times have changed. So it's always going to be a learning and growing process, not only learning and growing with other people, but learning yourself, because you're changing along the way as well. So just to kind of get back to, this whole thing with the power dynamics, and, whether and how to kind of deal with that in a relationship. Just in my experience, like I mentioned before, I really have tried not to, like, I don't throw it in a man's face that, oh, I make more money than you, and, I'm the breadwinner here. And, I've never been that type of person, because I'm not into emasculating men.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that to me is the quickest way. Talk about power dynamics.
Yeah.
That's the quickest way to
Make a man feel inferior to you.
that. And then it's going to cause, it's like a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cause other issues in your relationship. So even though it starts from, like, maybe a financial perspective or outlook, that will manifest itself in other ways in your relationship, when it comes to being physical, when it comes to
Emotional,
respect,
how he talks to
all of
you.
that,
Yeah.
So the last thing, you want to do is to make a man not feel like a man.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never, been the type of person to say, now you might look at what I drive and what kind of house I live in. And if that's you on your own and you feel inferior because of that, that's on you, because I didn't say,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I can afford this and you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I've never, like, that just is not something that that's not even my personality to, throw my success in the face of others, men, women, whatever. So I don't know. I just think it's an interesting dynamic when men kind of see how you're living, and some men will be intimidated by it.
Yeah, and I wanted to get into that. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that? First of all, let's even ask, why do you think that question or that idea is even a thing right now?
I think mainly because there's always been this notion that men are supposed to be the providers.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, they're going to make the money, and women are, I don't want to say subservient, but in some
The
aspects,
caregivers,
yeah,
nurturers.
and that we're not the brains behind the scenes. I think there's a potential. I don't want to say that there's an intimidation factor, but there's a potential intimidation factor from the standpoint of just in traditional times and people who think about relationships from a traditional standpoint, men have been the ones to kind of call the shots, and they've been the ones to kind of make the decisions and things like that. However, when you have these power dynamics where the women are now more educated, when you look at it from a perspective of just
Within,
statistics.
yeah, statistics and within the Black community specifically.
Yeah, women are getting degrees and higher degrees, masters, doctorates at a much higher level than Black men are. You know, we're now in a position that we're making more money. We have those titles of VP and we're climbing corporate ladders and all that stuff. Whereas that wasn't the case 30, 40, 50 years ago. So it was almost like now that that shift, I won't say it has occurred, it's occurring. Now that that shift is occurring, it's almost like men don't know how to deal with it because in my mind, they're like, well, what do you need me for now? And it's like, oh no, baby, we need you. we need you. Like we will always need you, regardless of how much money I could make 10 times more than you, baby. I'm gonna need you.
Can we talk about this a little bit? Because I have grown to have the perspective or come out of the perspective of, oh, I don't need a man for nothing. I'm independent, blah, blah, blah. Baby, I know I kind of iterated a bit of this in the beginning. I have so moved out, and it's been like this for a couple of years. You will never find me saying, I don't need a man. You'll never find me saying, like, oh, I don't need a man, or I don't need an emotional connection to, things like that, because I just feel like, especially as human beings, at our core, we need connection. We need community. We need people. We need just all of that.
Yeah.
So, but I used to wear my independent badge
Listen,
of honor very proudly.
I am the queen of the independent women's club.
Right.
Okay. And I probably 20 years ago, somewhere in there, I probably was on the bandwagon of, oh, I don't need a man. I got this and I can,
Baby,
listen.
I need a man. I am not afraid to admit that. Like
I'm right there with you now.
I need a man. Like, and I don't want it to, and it's not even just from the financial aspect of like, of course we want providers.
Yeah.
Of course. And something else that I've come to realize, when people hear providers, their mind automatically goes to
finances. Yes.
It's not just about finances when you find a man to provide for you.
Yeah.
I need a man to provide me with care if I'm sick.
Safety. And not just physical safety.
Right. Emotional safety.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not just about finances when we say we want a provider. So let's start there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Step one.
But also, even when you were talking about, the traditional aspect of like, men are usually the ones that are leading and things like that. I feel that now that we are in this space that women are making more money and things like that, men don't really know how to lead anymore. And maybe there's not a direct correlation there. That's fine. That since women are making more money, men don't know how to lead. I think
there is a direct correlation. Okay. It may not be, that's not the only factor.
Right.
But I do think that there's a direct correlation to that because when you have this dynamic of women who are, like I said, climbing the corporate ladder, they're making decisions in their companies.
Right.
They're, managers, VPs, CEOs of their companies. So when they come home, it is hard to turn that off. Or I won't say it can be hard to turn that off. And it takes a strong woman to be able to flip the switch when you walk through that door. Right. So, I think and maybe we need to have this is probably one of the first conversations where we need to bring in men to talk from their perspective. Cause I keep saying, I think from a man's perspective. Clearly I'm not a man.
Yeah, we both.
But I do think that, I can see how men could feel intimidated by that. I won't say inferior because I don't think that. And I don't even think they should feel intimidated. I think if you got a real woman who, yeah, she's got these accolades and doing very well for herself. A real woman is not going to throw that in your face. She is not going to use it as leverage to, make you feel inferior as a man, or, you should be happy that, I'm even giving you the time of day.
And she should also still give him the space to be a man as well.
Oh, for sure. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what your title is at work. I'm about to say a word here.
Don't say
y'all,
it.
I am. Don't y'all get mad at me.
Don't say it.
I am. A woman should submit to her man. Now, let me clarify what my version and my definition of submission is. Because I know when we throw that word out there, people get in their feelings. Okay.
Very negative connotation behind the word.
So my definition of submission or submitting to your man is trusting him to lead and guide you, your household, and the relationship. Trusting him to have your best interest at heart, to have his best interest at heart, and the relationship's best interest at heart. That's my version, and that I can leave it at that. Like, I don't have to go into all these, oh, well, in this situation. No, submission is simply trust. Nothing more, nothing less. That's my version. That's my definition. Y'all might have your own, but I feel like a man's man, a real man, you will want to submit to him because you trust him to lead you. You trust him to make the right decisions. It doesn't mean that he makes them unilaterally. It doesn't mean that he makes the decisions on his own. It means that if he had to, you trust him to be able to do that for you and your family. That's my definition of submission. Let me get off my soapbox.
I agree with you. I actually think that's a really good definition, because typically when people hear submit, they think the man is controlling. They think the woman, can't do anything for herself and has to wait for the man to make a decision. And it's not even that, the man is making executive decisions, like the decisions that really matter. You know what I mean? And he still can give you the room to support his decision, or, give feedback on his decision and things like that. Yeah. So I agree with you. And hey, if we get backlash, we get backlash. Listen, I got you. I'm standing 10 toes behind my mama. So
I don't want to have to fight about it.
If you coming for this one, you got to get past me first.
I don't want to have to fight about it. Okay.
We not trying to fight. We not trying to fight. We pretty. We don't do that.
Listen.
Okay. So have you had any situations or experiences in your past relationships where you feel like your success played a role in your relationship, either positively, negatively,
Not really. Again, because I try not to throw it in anyone's face. I'm the type of person that I go to work, and when I come home and walk through that door, work is left at work. Now I work from home now, but back then, I was in the office. Why is that so funny?
Because my mind just instantly went to, I work from home now, so I can't leave it at the door no more. So I'm bringing it upstairs with me.
Listen, I have an office. It stays in my office.
It stays in the office downstairs.
Yes, I have an office, a dedicated home office. It stays there.
It don't have a door, but the imaginary door will be closed when it comes out.
But yeah, you leave that at the office, or you leave that as soon as you walk through that door. Unless, of course you're going to ask, hey, how's your day? Or, how did today go, or whatever. And you talk about it, but you don't bring the weight, if there is any. I try not to stress over work and, things like that, but I try not to bring the weight of the job to my relationship. And I try not to bring even, I wouldn't say my successes, because you want to talk about your successes, because you want your partner to support you and help celebrate. Right. So, you bring that, but not in a way that's braggatory, if you will. Like, I'm not going to brag that, oh, I got a promotion, or it's not bragging. It's just celebrate with me. Like, that's a happy moment for us, not necessarily just for me. So I can't really think of like situations or relationships that I've had in the past where my job or my success really played a factor in whether like it or how it affected the relationship.
Okay.
Because again, I haven't been the type of person that's going to say, "Oh, I got a nice raise," and I'm not going to
Yeah.
throw it in your face.
And it also sounds like you just had, or you had been with men who were more secure in themselves and, their career and things like that, to the point where it didn't really bother them.
Yeah, and I think also one of the things that I have always tried to do is to see a person for who they are, not how much money they make.
Right.
Now, I will say, don't you come over here with no money, because I like to go out. I like to eat out. I like
We
to
like nice things.
travel,
We said that
all of that.
already.
Not to say that I expect a man to like spoil me. I spoil myself. That's probably like one of the reasons why I'm single now. But no, I've just never been the person to want or need or require a man to have X amount of dollars because you got to take me out to Ruth's Chris every week, or that's not me. I will say that sometimes I wish maybe I had been a little more in my own thoughts about not dating certain men because they expect you to take care of them. Case in point, this was probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago. This is back when we were living in Atlanta. I went out with this guy one time, right? And we met on some dating site. I don't remember which one. And literally on our first date, conversations going well. And, but he mentions that, and I don't even know how this came up in conversation, but he mentions, yeah, I'm used to, women taking care of me. And, basically that in his last relationship that the woman paid all the bills and he only had to pay for his car note. And I literally remember me saying, well, you don't have to worry about that over here. Because I'm like, that's not what I'm signing up for. And I was almost appalled that it was like his pride and joy,
Right.
that, like, oh,
I'm a house husband.
collar pop, my women take care of me. And I'm like, you're bragging about that? Like,
Ew.
when do we get here? And I was just so internally disgusted, like
She got the ick, y'all.
majorly. And I'm just like, when do we get here? So there are, and maybe I don't want to say it's an Atlanta thing, but Atlanta is different when it comes to dating. Like, I know that's not what we're talking about today, but I have come across some guys that just, they expect you as the woman, because you make more money and because you're successful, they expect you to take care of them. And I'm like, that's not what we're doing here. That's not what I'm signing up for. So I don't know.
Did you find that when you were younger that there were men that were intimidated by you from success, or, just any kind of things like that?
I don't think so. Not guys that I know personally. What I will say is I've had conversations with friends who have told me, oh, I can see how a dude could be intimidated by you. And I'm like, but why? Like, first of all, they say I got RBF. So
You do.
there's
do.
that. I mean, I can't help it. I'm not the person that's gonna be smiling in your face. Like I mentioned very early on, I think in our introduction, that I'm very laid back and reserved. That's just my demeanor. So it has nothing to do with my actual personality. It's just my demeanor. But I think that having those conversations, like mainly with male friends, about that intimidation factor. Okay, you have RBF, you drive nice cars, you ride motorcycles, you travel a lot, you do this, you do, and it's like all these things that they're naming. And I'm like,
It's all financial.
but men can do the same if they choose to.
And I've seen too that, like, somebody I might have saw an article or something like that where somebody said when picking your pictures for your dating profile, not to use a lot of pictures that where you're traveling and things like that, because guys will see that and think to themselves like, oh, this is a high price ticket or whatever that I have
High
to,
maintenance.
yeah, basically. So it's just like, I don't know. I take the best pictures when I'm on vacation,
And
baby.
do.
Like, it's not even about that. I want you to know that I travel. I look good while I'm doing it.
Right.
And here are the pictures. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that you name, at least from my perspective, it all just sounds like financial stuff. And it just
And
seems like that's why they get intimidated.
I think like men think about being providers, and I think the majority of them want to be providers, but when they see that you have all of these, I'll just call them things, they can get intimidated by that because they're like, can I really afford her? Can I afford her lifestyle?
And what can I give her that she doesn't already give herself almost?
And it's like, dude, a lot.
Yeah, I got a list
Like
actually.
a lot. It's not
I have a
even
list.
clearly I can finance myself. I don't need you to finance me. Now, don't you come over here with nothing. Let's just be clear about that. But I don't need you to finance me. And I think when men understand that portion and that piece, then they can get to the emotional intelligence, the emotional support. Like that to me is paramount and what I feel like is lacking the most as it relates to like when I'm meeting guys these days and talking to them and getting to know them. That's the piece that's missing the most to me is the emotional connection. Like
And intelligence, like you said, a lot of men are not in tune with their emotions.
they don't get it. They do
At all.
not get it.
Yeah. And it sucks.
I was gonna say, and it's not a good thing.
It
Like,
sucks.
yeah, to
For
put
lack
it
of
to put
better
it
words.
yeah, to be clear. Yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, interesting that you mentioned about the whole, guys looking at social media and stuff like that. So how do you feel about that? Because I know like, we recently talked about like what social media, how that plays into dating these days and stuff like that. So, have you experienced anything like that where, because like you said, we like to travel and, you listen, y'all need to go follow her on
Follow me on
social
Instagram,
media. I'm
y'all.
just saying, like, them pictures be popping.
Them pictures be fuego. Thanks to my trusted photographer. Okay. But no, yeah. I mean, I haven't had a lot of instances, but one does come to mind where I met a guy, like you said, on a dating app, and he followed me on Instagram, and one of the first things he said when he followed me and messaged me was, oh, I see you got all these travel things and blah, blah, blah on your page. I can't keep up with you. I got to get myself together first before I can basically date you or pursue you or anything like that. And it's like, while I do agree that you do need to get yourself together if you feel that, we're not on the same level.
Yeah.
You didn't even give this a chance. Like, social media is just that.
It's curated.
Exactly. It's very curated. I was going to say it's a facade, but it's not.
Right.
It's not. It's like you said, curated because I pick what I put out there.
Yeah, I'm not
And
going to put me out there looking dusty.
I'm not going to put me out here struggling. My mama know the financial struggles I be going through on a regular basis, but y'all would never know that because I don't put that type of stuff out there.
Facts. Yeah.
So, and social media is, while it is meant to be more realistic and things like that, you have your friends on there and they want to know how your life's going and all the other stuff. I ain't finna tell y'all my daily struggles.
Nobody is. I mean, you might have some people out there that, that's their bread and butter is to tell their struggles just so
Right,
they can
but
get
they
paid.
making money doing that.
So they can get paid. But yeah, it's curated. And I think he counted himself out before he even gave himself an opportunity to get to know you. How does he know that, to me, that says more about him that he is probably a little more superficial.
Or even
right?
insecure.
That part.
Yeah, that he, doesn't get to travel as much or things like that. And it's like, you don't even know the half of it. You don't even know a quarter of it. You don't know what I had to do. You don't even know that I took this trip right here and right now and I just posted the pictures. I could have had these pictures from over a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm just now posting them or I'm spacing it out or something like that. So it's like, like you said, he didn't give himself or myself the opportunity to even,
Like,
have
get
any
to know
type
me.
of, yeah.
Yeah,
And honestly, it sounds like I dodged a bullet. I'm not,
probably so.
yeah. Because I don't want somebody that isn't secure within themselves
Ooh,
to,
baby,
mm-hmm,
that insecurity thing
mm-hmm.
is a beast.
It is.
And honestly, I think that's where the largest part of the intimidation factor comes from.
Mm-hmm.
When someone, and I won't even just say men, when people are insecure about something about themselves, whether they don't feel like they make enough money, or, I haven't gone to college, I don't have a college degree, education, those factors really can play in their heads. I say there, I'm not going to say our, because I don't feel like I have like those insecurities. We're all insecure about something.
Right.
Like, I need to lose 5 pounds. But other than that, I'm just saying, like, I don't know, those insecurities can break and will break a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it can break or even not even give you the opportunity to even get to know someone. Because when people pick up on that, most people who are like on their game, I was about to say something else, who are on their game, they will pick up on those insecurities. And most of us are not really willing to kind of help you work through that. Like,
Right.
I'm not at a place where I want to spend time
Building a
working.
man.
Well, there it is.
This is not Build a Bear, babes. And it's not Build a Man either. You
Yeah, for
come
sure.
healed. Please come healed.
Well,
Because
that, oh my gosh,
I
that,
know
whew.
that like we're all working on ourselves. We all have things that we have to work on. That's never gonna stop.
Yeah.
But you have to be self-aware to know the things that are like something you really need to work on because it's been rooted in you for a while.
And be willing to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to me, I can probably give you, I wouldn't say give you a pass, but give you some grace
Yeah.
at least if you are willing to work on something that, ails you about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get in therapy. There is nothing wrong with it.
And that's the thing. I don't want to be your therapist. I don't want to be your mama. I don't want to be your big sister. I'll love you unconditionally as if I were, but I'm I'm not here to I'm not here to do that. That's not
And
my role.
also, a lot of the time, we're not equipped.
Right.
We didn't go to school for, psychology or any of that. So,
And I didn't birth a man 35, 40 plus years ago for me to even have to tell him that how to go through life these
well,
last however old he is years.
yeah.
So yeah, come healed, like I said, because it's not a woman's job to build a man. Like, yeah, you're gonna learn some things if the relationship doesn't work, or even throughout the relationship,
Yeah.
you'll learn some stuff as a man, and you'll figure out, what things you need to work on yourself. But it's not my job to find the flaws in you and help you work on them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because I
Yeah,
know
no,
some
no, no. I
people.
get that. My question for you is, being your age, 25, and, having had, limited dating experiences to this point, have you seen or experienced yourself any like dynamics between you and guys you've spoken to outside of like the social media thing, like where, men are, I wouldn't say intimidated, but have there been conversations that you've had that let you know that, okay, we're playing on different, we're not on the same playing field here?
Yeah, I mean, not one like specific situation comes to mind, but I have, like you said, have men come up to me and, or not even just come up to me, but in conversation have said like, oh, I can see why somebody might be intimidated by you, or like, oh, you're very wise. Do you have like,
She is
certain.
wise, but beyond her years, y'all. Sometimes I'm like amazed at like the conversations that you and I have, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're my daughter. Like, where did you get all this
Listen,
wisdom and all these experiences? And like, it's like you talk from experience, even if you haven't
don't have it. Yeah.
experienced the thing. I just find that very interesting.
I don't know. I kind of can. I read books, but I also can give it to social media too, because while some people say not to take a lot of information and data from social media and things like that, especially like TikTok and stuff like that, you hear other people's experiences and you see that there are a lot of similarities between, people and their experiences. So it's safe to assume, I guess you could say, that if more than one person is saying it, it's got to be true or something to that effect when it comes to like dating and stuff like that. But yeah, I read books too. It's not just social media. I'm not always just on my phone. But going back to, what you said, like I said, I can't think of a specific situation where like I encountered a guy that was just like, oh, I'm beneath you or anything like that. Like it's never been anything to that effect, but there have just definitely been, situations where I was getting to know a guy and it was just very obvious that, we're not on the same wavelength. Like you don't think the same as me. You're not as mature as me. Like, and we know that women mature at a faster age and things like that compared to men, but it just gets to be a bit frustrating because it's like, even when you think that, oh, maybe I should date older so I can have a guy that's more mature, babes,
Listen,
it don't matter what age, these men still be having problems.
They do. And you would think that at some point they grow out of some of these phases or, and even going back to that whole insecurity thing, like men my age, still very many of them are on that path of insecurity. And it's like, was it something that happened in your dating past that led you to this point? And I know there's a whole, thing about, people have been cheated on and, they, have gone through whatever they've gone through in their previous relationships. And yes, you bring some of that, if not a lot of that, into, your current situations. But you have to learn how to, like, I wouldn't say table it, but deal with it. Like, you can't just
come healed.
You can't just
that's the tagline of the episode. Come healed.
Hashtag come healed.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, that sounds amazing.
It does. In a perfect world.
It sounds amazing. And yes, I would love for everyone to come healed. But in reality, it's, I would say, not very likely. Like, you're going to have to work through some things with your person. Hopefully, they have as little baggage as, possible. But everybody comes with their own thing. I mean, you and I included. Like, we're,
I already know. I could name my baggage piece by piece. Okay, I can name my carry-on. I can name my check bag. I can name every single piece of baggage I'm gonna be bringing. But I'm self-aware. Okay, and I know what I need to work on.
Self-awareness. I love that because, yeah, I think when you're self-aware, like, you don't just like brush it under the rug or you're not just trying to, skate over whatever you think your issues are. And you address it head on. And I think that's important. So,
hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mother Daughter Mixtape. The conversation was getting really good, so we decided to split it into 2 parts. Make sure to tune in next week for part 2. You won't want to miss it. And don't forget to follow us on social media at the MD Mixtape for updates, behind the scenes, and more. Thank y'all for watching. Bye.